Hello. Passionate about sustainability, energy, and climate? You're in the right place. Welcome to Energetic. I'm Maureen Cornelis, and together we will engage with people who dedicate their lives to climate justice and making a just energy transition happen. They may be activists, scientists, policymakers, or other enthusiasts, just like you. Let the life stories and insights inspire you to build a better future for people and the planet. Welcome to Energetic, the podcast that brings you the change makers driving the energy transition. Today, we're honored to introduce Chantel, a visionary leader in the clean energy space. As the CEO of Oak Tree Power, Chantel brings over 15 years of seasoned leadership to the table, having steered multiple ventures from local operations to global powerhouses across 17 countries. Chantel is a tireless advocate for clean technology, and she's been instrumental in forging open collaboration with industry titans and policymakers alike. Her mission is to catalyze a sustainable world for all, and through her work, she has successfully deployed smart grids and virtual power plants, VPPs, technologies that are redefining how we think about energy distribution and consumption. So let's see how, under her stewardship, Oak Tree Power is becoming a lighthouse in the stormy seas of the energy transition. Chantel, welcome to Energetic.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Chantel. So, Oak Tree Power is positioned as the global interconnected cross-border flexibility leader. Can you explain to our listeners what energy flexibility means, why it's crucial in the context of the energy transition, and why did you choose this path?
Well, how did I choose this path? I would say maybe it chose me. Probably nearly 15 years ago, I just fell into, one of the first virtual power plants being built. Back then, the concept was very unknown. And, nearly 15 years later, I'm still in the industry and very excited to still, be working in this industry. So much changes. So when I really talk about energy flexibility, it's probably worth going through maybe what is the problem and why we need the flexibility. I think on a global scale, we are obviously using a lot more energy than anticipated. Although the big pipes and wires that move the energy around, they are all really old and probably installed in the 1930s and 1940s, and they require an enormous amount of money to just upgrade to cope with the current demand. I believe a recent Bloomberg report reports up to 21 trillion investment needed by 2050 just to upgrade the pipes and wires just to sustain our current electricity usage. But we're also using a lot more energy than we anticipated. So no longer is the pipes and wires just old. They're just not big enough to move the amount of energy around. So what we do with our customers, like Deutsche Bank and BNP Paribas, is we, together with grid operators, pay our clients to use less electricity at times when there's a bit of constraint on the really old pipes and wires. So when there's a bit of congestion, grid operators will send us a notification, and then we will basically reduce our clients' consumption automatically through our hardware and software. It's very much like if you've ever taken a flight when it's overbooked, they normally pay some passengers to stay behind and they take another flight. So it's the same kind of concept. It just applies to energy, and we call that sort of energy flexibility. When we talk about the energy transition, when we're expanding the networks to just cope with, the infrastructure, we also, there's two options. We can either increase our generation in order to cope with demand, or we could look at overconsumption. That's really what we do at Oak Tree Power. We work with our large multinational blue chip customers to really look at how they can use the energy in their buildings and their operations more intelligently, and at the same time, reduce where possible in order to manage those network constraints.
What are their main motivations of your customers, really to have a broader understanding? Is it money? Is it like saving? Is it being more efficient on their work streamlines? Is it because also of geopolitics, let's say? Is it for some form of constraints? So why would a big customer, because I assume these are big customers, why would they choose to be more flexible?
Each customer or client we speak to, they have many different drivers. Some of them have cost-saving pressures because, energy is a lot more expensive than it used to be. And then also everyone has net zero targets. So there's a lot more pressure from the consumers to be more sustainable and have a net zero goal. So not only do they need to use less energy, they also need to use it smarter and be better for the environment. But then at the same time, to be more sustainable and have renewable technologies or renewable sort of generation sources and operation is also quite expensive. So it's really looking at what kind of options we can put together for our customers that really helps them onto their journey and that seamlessly tie into any kind of energy saving and sustainability efforts they already are undertaking. So our solution currently looks at the cost saving for our customers, typically up to around 30% reduction in their baseline energy. And then secondly, we're also pay them to play their part in the wider network as we go through this energy transition together. And of course, it's more sustainable. For every kilowatt you don't use, there is no cost, but there's also no corresponding carbon footprint, which inherently makes the solution a lot more sustainable, we would say, tapping into that previously unavoidable CO2 emissions.
Wow. So it's really like the impact looks absolutely massive. Why, according to you, this is not more widespread? So what is like in the broader context of the energy transition? Why is like Oak Power still considered somehow a startup, whereas it's actually something that has the potential of getting so much bigger and so much mainstream somehow? So how do you envision like this future of energy with this integration of clean technology and really flexibility and the kind of businesses that you are leading?
I would say with many years of experience in what I would call now the clean tech energy startup space, it does require different phases for the industry. You generally start with your innovation phase, then your early adopters, and then you cycle into mass market. And at the same time, the pipes and wires weren't as old as they were 15 years ago. And the energy crisis is only a bit more apparent in the recent years when you're looking in the media. So I think as a global economy, we're all looking at energy and the energy transition, and we all understand it now. And I think that is why sort of clean tech companies have a more of a brighter future now. Is the need is definitely there, and I can see the demand for climate tech companies playing a vital role in the energy transition. Because globally, like I said, our grids are transforming, they need to expand. We also need to decarbonize, but at the same time, we also need to digitize. And I really do see sort of smart tech companies or climate tech companies being the enablers of the new sort of smart grid economy or net zero economy.
Yeah, and you're really a leader in this. And you have been emphasizing, let's say, a more collaborative approach with the global industry leaders and government bodies as well. And how has this collaboration shaped Oak Tree's strategies and offerings, but also how has it influenced your own career so far?
Well, like I said, 15 years ago, everyone just paid their energy bill. No one really paid a lot of attention to it. And I believe, with that inherent experience we have a duty of care to the industry to really make our knowledge available and collaboratively work with our clients as well as, governing bodies that write new policy and, working in a collaborative approach with our large multinational, multi-site customers. It's really important for us to work together and find those internal champions, socialize the information, as well as rolling out successfully because you're just repeating the success you've achieved to one side to another side. We're also, as we're expanding to more and more locations, we always look for the right partners to work with in each location. One example of that is in the UK, we are working closely with Manchester Metropolitan University, which is named as the #1 sustainability university in the UK. And it's through this specific collaboration and partnership that we are developing an AI product specifically for the built environment that will improve energy efficiency in buildings by up to 45%, which is in line with the International Energy Agency's call to lower all buildings' energy usage by 45% by 2050. And we believe that this product seamlessly ties into policy to achieve that. And this, like I said, working with our large commercial real estate customers, not just in the UK, but on a global scale, to really look at how our solutions can put them on that path towards net zero.
Yeah, that's fascinating because I didn't know that Oak Tree Power was also working with the built environment and really universities, which are somehow genuinely thought that you were working only with industrial players. So knowing now that you also work with those kind of entities, universities, research centers, and places that are actually where people gather, where it's not only about, saving for the production of something else, but really for also the comfort and well-being of the students, and dedicating maybe more of the money that is available to studying, to researching, etc., makes it even more fascinating. Do you have other examples of other customers you work with, or you would like to work with, maybe?
No, sure. So we work with industrial and commercial clients, really, and how the virtual power plant industry started was mainly with large industrial users. But as the concept is becoming a little bit more wider known, it's now, and in order to reach mass market, we have to go down layers and really taking that experience and developing the right products that is still commercially viable when you scale down, which I think is really important. We have a number of interesting projects, which is not 100% confirmed yet, of similar style and nature that we're working on in sort of Europe, in Greece and in Belgium. And we believe that the products we're working on, true innovation that would really set the standard within the industry and really drive energy efficiency, sustainability, and flexibility as a whole.
That's really, really, really interesting. On my side, I've been working on flexibility for a few years now, mostly in Africa, in a context where there is some scarcity of the electricity available. So it makes a lot of sense, to kind of want to enable the grid to leapfrog from a basic system level to something that is actually able to respond to more renewables and to a better quality of the service, etc. But I find it really absolutely fascinating how, the kind of this technology, how it's only at its beginning, and that there are so many, let's say, ways of making it happen, and that actually deliver more for the people without making some really embarrassingly high investments or things that would really be a constraint for the future. Because what I understand from flexibility is that the return on investment can be quite fast. Can you dig a little bit into this kind of thing? Also because, I'm sure some people would love to be more flexible, but can they?
Yeah, I would say I've been in this sort of smart tech, sort of virtual power plant flexibility space for about 15 years now. And it's really taking all my collective experience to develop sustainable solutions. So our solution is at no cost to our clients. So the payback to them is virtually instant. Our solution, takes less than 6 weeks to install. So the benefit is almost instantly. And I think I have a particular sort of passion when it comes to Africa. Being from South Africa myself, I understand load shedding and when there's not enough power. And I can see just the economy suffering as a whole, small businesses suffering. And my main driver overall by getting into energy and energy sustainability is really looking at how to build a sustainable system that will benefit not just the people obviously using electricity today, but also in the future, looking at my sister and the kids. We really want to build something that is more sustainable for their future, even if I'm no longer around. So, that's my personal driver, why I get out of bed in the morning and why I've made this my life's work. We all have to have a reason to get out of bed. And, if it's something very close to home and it can help my home country and, develop solutions in the UK and in Europe and really get to that really sustainable grid, it's really make that sort of learnings available so we can really bring energy to, I think there's nearly 700,000 or 700 million people in Africa still without electricity. So it's an enormous amount of people still without electricity, which means no Wi-Fi, which means no access to free education, right? So, yeah, that's the big goal over in the far right corner, but systematically, how do you eat an elephant a bite at a time? The industry's come a very long way in the last 15 years, but we still have a very long way to go in the next 15 years.
Wow, that's really so inspiring, and really having the idea that, maybe the grid is an elephant that we need to eat one bite at a time is, I really love this metaphor. I'm going to use it again. So thank you so much, Chantel. So you work with 4 kind of innovative products under one umbrella. So can you shed some light, pun intended, on these products and how they contribute to a streamlined and sustainable growth model?
Sure. We'll say with an Oaktree, we have a really fantastic team, and, everyone has great expertise and knowledge of the industry. And what we've really done is sat down and looked at our collective experience and knowledge and how we can recreate the right products in order to deliver and drive the right value in the environment we have today. And that's led us to develop a range of disruptive digital solutions to drive sustainability as well as new business models. Our solutions are quite simple. It works with our clients' existing energy suppliers utilizing their current infrastructure. And like I said before, our little box that we call the akin can be installed in less than 6 weeks. There's no upfront cost to our customers, and there's also no downtime, which makes it, nearly instantly available. And that little akin then connects to our software platform, or we call our Sustainable Energy Management System, or SEMS. And then that SEMS would really match the client's energy profile to a number of different digital solutions that we have to either drive energy efficiency to lower cost, match that in real time with flexibility programs in order to generate revenues, which can either be used to offset energy costs or invest into new sustainable initiatives. And then at the same time, capture the wider, not just the client's carbon footprint reduction, but also the wider system benefit. Because every time we might run a program and the customer's main driver is, for example, to lower their carbon footprint, we would look at the grid intensity when it's running coal, for example, and then we try and run our programs and solutions at the same time in order to lower the client's energy consumption at the time when, the grid's coal intensive, maybe. So it's a bit more analytical in the background, but really looking at what is the customer journey, what is their main driver, and then really developing the right bespoke digital strategies for that specific client or that specific site.
Have you been able so far to try some of this technology in South Africa, in your home country?
In a previous life at a previous company, we did scale into South Africa, but I think the energy economy over there was a little bit grey. If you provide a solution, people participate in these programs because there is a revenue driver. And if the revenue isn't being paid, of course, the adoption isn't going to be there. But I believe there's a number of new products and solutions in South Africa at the moment. They have a very old grid and they have a very big country. So that infrastructure is just very expensive. We're not seeing just in South Africa. We're seeing that in Australia. We're seeing that in America. And, these are first world countries also dealing with the same problems and the same struggles. And now we have third world country with just lots of pipes and wires to upgrade, and it's just too expensive. So you've really got to look at smart, distributed, and in some ways disconnected smart grids to really maintain different pockets of the country rather than having those big overhanging networks, because we just know it's not sustainable to upgrade them. Like the cost to just keep them running is very expensive.
Absolutely. That's really, really interesting because it's like global, think global, but act really local, because every territory will have a different impact footprint needs also, and I would expect also the impact to be more visible in certain areas than it is in others because of all the constraints. And as you said, one of the key elements, really one of your mission is really to help your clients lower their CO2 emissions. So if the grid is extremely carbon intensive, like with coal power plants, for instance, whenever you enter and whenever you manage to lower the pressure on the grid and make sure that the grid, your client first and the grid overall consumes less electricity, it means that they consume less coal. If they consume less coal, well, they lower their carbon footprint. So really it's paving the way for net zero, really. So are there any kind of success stories or milestones that you would like to share today? I think, for so many people, those kind of conversations remain something like a high level, and they don't understand that it's already now. It's happening already now. And, until a few years ago, I didn't get it either. And that's why I'm really, really curious about this topic. I really want to know more. I really want to lower my footprint, to make sure that I use the electricity at the right moment. We've had several guests here on Energetic who explained that to us, but can you share really some milestones and examples coming from Oak Tree Power? And by the way, you also have to explain me the name of the company.
Sure. So I always think it's always good to give a real tangible example of a specific customer that we're working with. So I'll probably talk about one of our clients, the Financial Times. We've been working with them over the last sort of 18 months. And the main driver for them adopting our solution was cost saving and reducing their CO2 emission. So we started by analyzing their energy profile and then looking at their building, and then designed a bespoke strategy that will fit for that customer's profile and comfort levels, because it's very important, to work with the customer to develop a solution that they are comfortable with. It can't just be an off-the-shelf cookie-cutter solution that's the same for everyone, because not everyone operates the same way. Every business is different, There might be 100 companies making pencils, but they might all make it differently. And therefore, inherently, our solutions need to be scalable, but also have that level of bespoke customization in order to really make sure you provide the right benefit to your customers to drive the right value drivers effectively. So our bespoke program at the moment runs silently and intelligently in the background. And there's no impact on comfort or operations, and more importantly, no complaints. And while that's all happening silently and intelligently in the background through our little box, the akin, and the client's saving around 26% off their annual electricity bill. So all of this is automated completely. The customer can focus on their core business. They don't really have to get involved in all these complex decision making, because our system is quite smart and it will do the rest for them. The building is also in the city, the centre of London. And what we find with most sort of urban areas, you can't just build a big power station in the middle of the city because there's not space, and you can't, put in sort of solar or, a wind turbine in the middle of the city. So you really have to manage the network within a sort of a city, specifically an old city like London. You have to manage that quite tightly. So the Financial Times provides crucial flexibility service to the local distribution operator. So the pipes and wires operator for the City of London. So they provide flexibility services. So when there's a little bit of congestion on a specific section of the network, they will reduce the energy consumption. Again, that's completely automated for our system, operates silently and intelligently in the background. And in return, they get paid for participating in this program. And I would say, every time we run this program, the client is reducing, obviously, their costs, but they're also getting paid. But then crucially, because they're providing these flexibility services, we are capturing that wider carbon benefit. And in this particular case, the CO2 savings for this particular client is amplified by another 2,123 kilograms as a direct result of participating in the flexibility program. So this customer we make one adjustment, and there's 3 benefits: savings, revenue, as well as the corresponding carbon footprint. Because like I said, for every kilowatt not used, there is no corresponding carbon footprint. But then there's also the wider system benefit, which we touched on previously. So if you put that into context, really, if 120 buildings were running the same program as the Financial Times, that's roughly 24 million kilowatt hours saved annually. And if you put that into a cost perspective, that's just over 7.2 million euros in savings. And if you're looking at the CO2 savings, it's nearly 9,000 tons of CO2 saved every single year. To put that into context, it's the equivalent to 3,460 flights from Amsterdam to Rome. So it's a significant saving. So every kilowatt we reduce has a collective benefit. And the more customers we have, it is a substantial saving that we are doing. And it's really the only cost-effective, scalable solution, specifically in the built environment, because we are limited because of space. And, every square meter has to have a price tag, specifically in, all the European cities. So we have to be smart on how we deal with that network congestion.
Yeah, I was totally unaware of the magnitude of those numbers. It's of those figures. It's really, really, it's incredibly high. And it makes so much sense really to tap into this kind of potential, especially in, as you said, in cities that are not all buildings can get solar panels on their roof. And even though they would have solar panels, if they don't use the electricity, when the electricity gets produced, it doesn't really make so much sense in that context. So that is, wow, I'm really impressed. Also wondering, you said that your customers were getting paid each time they were not using the electricity at peak time, let's say. Where does this electricity, the money come from? How does that really works into your broader system?
So it's a very good question. It's a question we get asked a lot, really. So if you look at how energy used to work, you had a central power station, energy flowed one way to the end consumer, right? But as we are decarbonizing in favor of renewables, they are intermittent, which means, we have to manage supply and demand still without having that consistent power because the sun is not always shining and the wind's not always blowing. And then, we have these pipes and wires that's really old. You have them nationally and you have them locally. And when we manage flexibility, like reducing our overconsumption, what happens for the grid operators is they can defer the upgrades of a specific area because they can manage the congestion better or delay it in some cases, which means, in those cases, it's millions to upgrade a substation. And if you can have a collective pool of customers collectively reducing their consumption, you might be able to defer that network cost indefinitely. So then a proportion of that is then used to encourage industrial and commercial clients to obviously participate in these programs. And on a national level, said all the really old pipes and wires, they move energy around, and the less upgrades and expansion we have to do because we're managing our energy better, because we've moved from a consumer just energy flowing one way down to the consumer, where you have households now having solar and EV, so energy is flowing many, many different directions. That's why we also need to digitize. So if you look at smart grid economies, that is inherently distributed and in some ways disconnected from the bigger pipes and wires, the overall network cost is reduced. So then that revenue pool is then sort of set aside for these balancing programs. And also, a large portion of the revenues come from traditionally, the country would need more power. So you send a signal to a power station and they make more power, right? It works the same way, but the only difference is we don't make power, we just produce power, but it's the same concept. So they still pay for not producing the power and lowering your consumption.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. Also, like as a mindset, could that work for everyday people, for household consumers as well, or would it be like too complicated because people have different habits and?
Yes, I think. Overall, really, human behavior is probably the hardest thing to adjust. And what we do, specifically in the UK, which is a little bit more ahead in regards to the flexibility environment and how they've gone through their journey over the last 15 years, there is programs currently in the UK that pays household customers and residential customers to turn down their energy at certain times. And there's a number of different providers offering this service. So we are seeing more and more of these programs being developed because I think on a global scale, everyone's realizing it's far more cost effective, far more scalable, and far more sustainable to use less energy than to just build more energy. So, it's great to see that we've come such a long way. We still have a very long way to go. But, one of my missions is to take flexibility into as many markets as possible and really making sure we can collectively make a huge difference.
Chantel, as you look ahead, what's really next for Oak Tree Power? You still have to tell me what the name stands for, because I would expect the oak to be a very, very strong tree. So is it why the company has this name?
Well, I'll get onto that now. So I would say what is next for us. So we are building the world's first global interconnected flexibility market space because I think everyone looking around sees just the energy industry as a whole is a little bit broken, fragmented, disconnected, and we really have to focus on delivering sort of newer solutions that really benefits the entire energy value chain. And that's why we are developing our system to really bridge the gap between electrical asset owners and flexibility buyers to really accelerate the transition. And with a couple of industry firsts already on our belt within the team, having worked on the first virtual power plant, first grid scale storage, and a number of others, it's really time for us to look at flexibility or flexibility 2.0. What does the next layer look like? How do we go into the mass market? And, we have nearly 90 megawatts currently under management, over 160 sites in 3 different countries, and we're expanding to more markets, and the team is working on a number of, I would say, truly innovative solution that is really going to transform the way we, the energy efficiency within sort of our customers' sites and really drive that innovation and sustainability and really develop, the right flexibility products to unlock that huge potential. So it's definitely a very exciting time for us. And, I'm very proud of my team. And like I said before, this will be my life's work. So, I'm definitely sure I'm going to give it my all. When it comes to the company name, the 2 co-founders decided on the name before I joined. It's, really come from a banking and finance industry. And it's a strong, powerful oak tree. And that's why we have the acorn. But really, if you're looking at our cross-border interconnected marketplace, if you look at the roots of an oak tree, it really expands far and wide. And, it's a strong, stable sort of platform, lots of experience and knowledge. There's a number of metaphors you can put in there, but, mainly that's come from banking and finance industry. And, I would say most people look at an oak tree and they go steady, safe, secure. And that's kind of what they wanted for the business as well.
I love that. I think that in this time of uncertainties regarding the security of supply, energy price crisis, etc., it's really good to have some steadiness and some ways we feel safe about something, and really oaks have these beautiful, sturdy branches, but they also have very strong roots. And I feel that what you are doing is bringing some kind of new roots for the electricity system somehow. So, Chantel, is there anything you would like to add now? Because we are reaching the end of our podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to discover your company. I think it's really fascinating what you do, and I will definitely keep an eye on to what you are doing, really.
I have to say, scary. Going on to the energy transition, net zero, I find that a lot of the clients I'm speaking to just don't know where to start. And, I've always said I'm available, even if it's just for advice. You don't even have to be my client, right? Just making the knowledge available and helping as many clients and customers as I can, just to really understand how to buy flexibility, how to source it, where to start, what is the right kind of programs for your site or your building. That's a good place to start, because at the end of the day, the revenues are there. And in some cases, they are annual recurring revenue streams, and they are substantial. So, I really do encourage anyone in every location in the world where they are listening from, there is flexibility programs, and they are more and more being developed as time goes on. So, start reading and see how you could benefit.
Perfect. Yes, I will definitely put your contact details, the LinkedIn contact details on the show notes, and I will encourage anybody to reach out. And you're also a member of Smarten. So it's the Smart Energy Coalition, let's say, umbrella organization in Brussels. So you can be found very often there, I suppose. You're a very active member, and I suppose you are also attending some interesting industry platforms as well. So yeah, I'm sure we will meet very soon.
Yes, I think I am at the next sort of Smart End conference. I might be in Paris at Enlit, so if you're around, definitely come and find us. I'm happy to chat to anyone. But yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting everyone.
Yes, I will be there. I will be actually chairing the energy poverty session on Thursday, the 29th of November. So this is also a message to our listeners. If you're in Paris, join us at Enlit. And in the meantime, thank you so much, Chantel Scappers from Oak Tree Power for your time. It's been super interesting.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure. And yeah, I look forward to catching up soon.
Thanks for listening to Energetic. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into sustainability and the just energy transition with the most inspiring stakeholders. All links and resources are in the show notes. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like this podcast, why not recommend it to a friend or a colleague? To continue the conversation, head on over to Twitter or LinkedIn. Thank you for lending your ears. That's all for this episode. Until next time.